We are delighted to be here for the third year in a row. And today we are going to speak about people and skills. Maybe in a minute.
So welcome back. For those who were there last year, sorry for the noise. For those who were there last year, we talked about AI, and we tried to convene one simple message. The message was that AI is likely to be extremely disruptive, and companies should invest in AI to two sets of potential. One, automation, the other one being new business model innovation. Click. Now, on the word about automation, we can see that these days automation has a bit of a connotation which is slightly negative. Maybe we all think, and maybe some of you think, that automation is likely to kill or steal your jobs. By the way, do you scream, or are you an optimist? Click. Click. In fact, today, we will try to address 3 questions. And the questions is linked to the fundamental second word I tried to make. It's about innovation. Innovations leads to productivity growth, and usually productivity growth creates exactly new jobs. Now, for those jobs to happen, you will need the right skills. And skills meets talent. And today, what we're going to be talking about is really about that. What are the skills that you will be needing if AI diffuses in your economies? We will do it with 3 questions. We're going to look backwards, and we will look at what will be the skills of the last 50 years. We will have the second question, and the second question is, what do we believe the skill shift or the skill of the future will be? And 3, if you reconcile backwards and forwards, there is a fundamental question, is that what are we going to be doing? What's the role of governments and what's the role of companies? Now, to give you a bit of the headline, and then we will go to each of these points, we have 3 messages today. Message number 1, backwards. Skill has changed. Forward, skill will actually change even further. Second message, it's a big deal. We believe that the change in skill is actually one of the biggest drivers of the opportunities of AI. We believe, in fact, that it's worth $1 trillion, I repeat, $1 trillion US of opportunity for Europe alone by 2030. That's pretty much 25 to 30% of all the potential we believe will come out from economic activity growth of AI. And point number 3, it's about you. Skills, talent is about you, but it's also about you as entrepreneur as well as firms. Contrary to the past, where education was the driver to push for new skills, this time is different. This time is companies will have to do it because it's going to be fast. It's going to be about all the workforce that you nurture. And 3, fundamentally, because we believe this is the start of a war for talent. Eric, what happens backwards?
Thank you, Jacques. Let's tackle the first question. How skills demand has changed historically. So every job is a combination of skills. So if you remember miners, they were essentially focused on carry production and dig tunnels. But when you look at miners today, they are a combination of physics and manual skills and basic cognitive skills. So their job has changed, and we need to understand that every job is a combination of skills. So the mix of skills in the future will be evolving, and we are at the age of a change of mix of skills in our society. Look at what has happened also in the past century. We have forgotten that, but we have pushed everybody to go to school. That was what we did between the first half of the 20th century. And then we pushed everybody to go to higher education. That has changed dramatically the composition, the breakdown of skills of every job. We are at the edge of an era where we need to do a push which is similar to this one. So, we know that the composition of skills will change, and has changed already. We know that we are going to replicate something which is similar to what we did in the 20th century, but there is something more. The middle class is shrinking. So in this change of skills that is coming, we see already that the center of the labor force pyramid is decreasing progressively, from 61% to 50% in the past 25 years, and if we do nothing, it will continue to shrink. So the question is, what society, what labor force do we want? Also, we have the impression that digital is already there, and it's not only an impression, it's already there. Look at these numbers, which says essentially what is the percentage of jobs that are touched by digital. It has increased drastically also in the past 15 years. Now 70% of jobs have a component of digital in what we do. So we intuitively know that because financial managers, lawyers, nurses, and so on all use digital. Maybe some cooks, but not for long, are not using digital. It will change again. So the first wave of change, the digital wave, is already there. But AI is here, and it will again change the components of the skills we use to do our jobs. So looking ahead, by 2030, and this is announcing our next part on the future of skills and the skill demands, by 2030, AI will alter the nature of most jobs. It will, in fact, render obsolete from 10 to 15% of the jobs of the full-time equivalent we know. It will also require that at least 45% of the job need to be reskilled completely or partially, and that we need to train at least 45% of the worker between now and 2030.
Now, let's look at the future. Now, this is a title that you should possibly, all of us, write. It's all about new emotional skills. It's a lot about technological skills and possibly better, higher cognitive skills. The questions we want to address with you is it true? What mix? How many kilos of social skills do you need? And so on. And the message is, it's going to change. So let's go to the way we have done it. Click. That's a prediction. Bear with me. We're trying to forecast what's going to happen in 2030. For that, we used two sets of analytics. First, we went back to what we presented last year to you, which is we tried to map every occupations to tasks and activities. And at that time, we did that. We put the diffusion curve, and we told you that a lot of jobs could change. But again, we don't believe that the number of jobs that's going to be killed will be that dramatic. This time, we went one step further. We took exactly that part of the activities and mapped to any type of skills, the best skill that you need to do each of these activities. And of course, we did it on 25 of activities times 2,000, 25 of skills with 2,000 of activities, pretty much 50,000 cells of click, where we try to model the skill of the future. We went from 25 skills because we wanted to make nice slides. We synthesized that in 5 types of skills: physical, basic cognitive, higher cognitive, social and emotional, and technological. Technological, you can think of coding. Physical is obviously everything that you do possibly on the motor side. And higher cognitive could include obviously everything that you do from a brainy type of profession, but could be obviously creativity. That's the way we will show you the numbers. Now, those numbers are obviously pretty much mechanical and technical. Obviously, who's going to decide whether these numbers are right? It's possibly you. As an entrepreneur, as firm, you are likely to decide whether you want to diffuse AI and whether you want to change the skill mix for the war for talent that we want to foresee. In fact, we went to a second layer of a survey of more than 3,000 business leaders across 7 countries, covering pretty much 14 sectors. And the good news is that what you reported to us in the business survey fits very well with what we will show you on the technical side. So let's go to the findings. So first observation, surprisingly, when you do a full-time equivalent picture of where we spend our time and the skills attached to that, still today, 50% of our time is actually still on physical manual skills and basic cognitive skills. Basic cognitive skills is literacy, numeracy, the things that you learn possibly in the high school. So we are not that extremely cognitive. How will it evolve in the future? Click. Now, what you see here is that no wonder physical and basic cognitive skills will start to decline. The rest will start to increase. In particular, the first one is quite significant. Minus 14% of the total of the physical manual will continue to go down. More importantly, click, is the number one, minus 15%. This is what we call a tipping point. Cognitive skills has been in demand, as has continued to increase in the last 30 years. For the first time, we foresee a decline, and the decline is higher than the one on the physical side. Point number 3, keep going. I will simply look at the social emotional skills. Technological skills is going to be the biggest driver of increase, but I wanted to highlight the social emotional skills. These are the kind of skills that, courtesy of myself, most of the ladies in these rooms, you are accustomed to. This is actually the biggest increase of skills, naturally, that we want to see from 2016 to 2030. Keep going.
Okay.
We try to get. Oh. Now, this is a change. The next question is that, yes, the change, the mix will be different. Is it going to happen in a smooth way, or is it going to be very different? We computed that for the United States. And in fact, the message is very simple. While it took pretty much in 15 years minus 2 points for each categories to go down or to go up, we see the numbers to be multiplied by a factor of 2.5 up to 3. Otherwise stated, it will take actually in the same time, in the same wave of time, pretty much 3 times more movement in the labor markets. So we are here for a major change. Now, obviously, this is the broad picture. You are likely to ask yourself, what's going to happen if we are going to deep dive into different sectors? And indeed, the picture is likely to be different because sectors have different tasks, different activities, different diffusion curve possibly on the AI. But the bottom line is that we will see the same wave of change across all the industries with obviously some difference. Think about manufacturing. Manufacturing, the orange side is actually the negative side. The blue one is the positive side. What you see, energy and mining, manufacturing, will see a continuing shrinking of the labor force linked to physical and manual skills. They will possibly have, obviously, technological and social and emotional skills as well. But what you see as well is that in banking and insurance, there will be a shift from the back office basic cognitive skills to the front office and the interactions with clients called the social and emotional skills. Finally, we see as well there will be very much difference on the healthcare side. So change is fast, it's pervasive, slightly different by companies. Then comes the last question. Are we adapting ourselves sufficiently fast versus the demand of shift that is needed? We computed that, and it's the example of Sweden, because Sweden is pretty much more advanced in digital and AI than the average of the countries in Europe. And we mapped the demand side, which is what I discussed now, with the vertical axis, which is the supply side of skills. Supply side of skills is usually what you get from your education, and it's possibly what you get by having extra learning within firms that you want. Now, the point is that the supply side will actually go up on the basic cognitive skills, simply because people still go to high school. But in the same time, the demand, as I say, is going to go down. So what you see on the left of this chart is that the tipping point is creating an excess supply, a tension in the market for the people with basic cognitive skills. On the other hand, we see exactly the reason why you should be caring about the future of skill is the war for talent. The higher cognitive skills will increase, but the supply will slightly increase, but not enough. Social emotional skill will increase further on the supply side, but not enough to compensate for the demand. And technological side as well. Today, we already know we have excess demand of coders. It's going to continue. So the bottom line is that in the future, this is going to be fast. It's going to be on the right-hand side of the chart, a mix of cognitive, emotional, and technological skills. But today, we perceive that this is going to be a war for talent because there is not enough supply to meet the demand side of it.
So thank you, Jacques. So what is happening is that we are on the edge of a change which may lead, if we don't change the education and the training system, to an excess supply, so unemployment, and to a war on talent on certain skills. So the question is, how do we change? And probably, is this perception and is this computation that we did shared by the top executive that we have interviewed? Actually, as Jacques was mentioning, we interviewed 3,000 people, 7 countries, 14 sectors. What do they say? They say, I have concerns. I do have concerns. 26% of them, they say, I think my employees won't upgrade their skills fast enough. And maybe, again, a quarter of them, they say, maybe some of my workers will not be adaptable enough. And by the way, because we are in the era of the learning economy, where the human capital is the master word and where the ROI of the human capital will be the most important. What is the problem? A large part of them, actually 30% of them, say, if I don't have the right guys, if I don't adapt them enough, if I don't train them enough, if I don't upgrade the skills, my financial performance will suffer. 25% of them, they say, not about financial performance. If I don't have the right guys, my growth will suffer. I will not be able to grow at the pace I need to grow. So that is a concern, and that is probably why we're here to talk about this. But instead of being anxious, we should look at the opportunity, and the opportunity, if we win, if we do change in the next 15 years, is about $1 trillion in Europe. So let's look about it, and let's see how we can do that. So what do companies need to do to adapt their organization, to build their workforce, and to partner potentially with other stakeholders, namely the policy makers? They have to do several things. There are 2 HR levers they need to contemplate. One is internal, one is looking to the outside. Redeploy. This is about rethinking their organization, rethinking their mix of skills, rethinking the jobs. We will see in a minute that we were talking about blue-collar jobs, white-collar jobs. Now we talk about new-collar jobs. The combination between advanced cognitive skills and basic skills or physical and manual skills will create new jobs. We have to rethink the job description of our organization. And by the way, most probably, we have to remove from a job description-based, pyramidal organization to an organization which is project-based and which is much more centered around the individual. Let's look now on the external contract. What does it mean? Value chains will change. Value chains will evolve. They will probably imply that we externalize, we outsource some steps of the value chain to platforms. to people, to freelancing activities. That will change completely the way we do business in certain activities. So the combination of these two levers will make a big change to the labor force and to the companies that we know. Summarizing what we just said, 4 principles. Having a learning culture in a learning economy. We will be learning all the time. We will be going back to school all the time, but we will be trained all the time. Organizational flexibility, meaning that we need to be flexible, but we need also to redesign our organization, and I will give example in a minute. Independent work, we spoke about it. It has impact on our value chain. A new-collar job, redesigning the jobs that we have in our companies and in our organization. Examples, if I have them, yeah. Learning culture, yeah. Okay, yes. Learning culture, we see that a lot within the digital player. Not only, but I have an example here about what Google had to do to retrain people from being just software engineer, which is already quite difficult, to be AI-driven, AI specialist. They took 1/3 of their engineering pool and they trained them in 2 years. This is the type of thing that a lot of companies are thinking about now. 2 years, 1/3 of the pool. Let's talk now about organizational flexibility. You know probably the example of Zappos. Zappos is a digital player again, if I say it, yes. They have created a concept which is called holacracy. Not to say that the organization of Zappos is the model for the world, just to say that the idea of having project-based organization, less hierarchical, less pyramidal, is probably something we need to think about, even in big companies. New-collar jobs, we discussed about that. A few companies, very well known, some of them were there on stage a few minutes ago, are doing that. IBM is creating a mix of white-collar apprenticeship to fill this new job. So they're combining advanced tech skills, white-collar jobs, blue-collar jobs to recreate jobs completely. Independent work, the gig economy, the freelancing, Uber, Deliveroo. These platforms are changing the way we do business and probably the way we do some step of our value chain. Fujitsu, on technology, they are now leveraging Field Nation, which is a platform on technologists that they are incorporating into their value chain that is permitting to specialize their technology workforce on something else and to leverage outsource workforce for certain tasks. So that's the 4 levers every company needs to contemplate. Collaboration. Collaboration between companies and stakeholders, policymakers. This is important. This is going too fast. We only have 15 years ahead. And by the way, it's already changing now. So it's not like we need to work a bit and then wait 15 years and then change. No, we need to work now. We need to change now. So companies, policymakers, NGOs, stakeholders, they all need to collaborate. They all need to connect. A bit the spirit of Tech for Good yesterday. They all need to connect to do something together and accelerate the pace of change in terms of skills, build the skills of the future and the future of skills. So, jumping to the... we'd like to conclude with this small quote from Charles Darwin. I think you can read it, but it is particularly important. It's not the strongest of the species that survives. It's not the most intelligent, but the one that is most adaptable to change. We need to adapt ourselves. We have the potential to adapt ourselves. We have a lot of assets to adapt ourselves, and we at McKinsey are persuaded that we can do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.